Depending on where in the world you're at, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Charlie Ariano. Sometimes I'm known as Charlie, other times I'm known as Captain Ariano or Sir. Of course, this all depends on my audience. So today I want to talk to you about one of the things I think is important with regards to leadership communications, and that's getting people's attention. There are many ways to capture someone's attention, such as yelling fire or just saying hey. Denning speaks about this concept in Chapter 8, and I think without this key concept, effective communication essentially breaks down between the leader and the follower. Some of you may be wondering why I'm in uniform. It's because I want to talk about getting people's attention and kind of show you this concept in action from a military perspective. If you're anything like me, you probably have a short attention span. You're probably checking the bottom of the screen and wondering how much longer is left in this video, or you're thinking about what you should eat later on. Either way, I don't blame you. Denning talks about how the world today is such an unpredictable kaleidoscope of shifting information, activities, people, places, stories, and goals, all vying for a place in our minds. And it severely tests our ability to concentrate on anything in particular. Consider your home life and the act of completing a discussion question or writing a paper. I'm sure your life is just as hectic as mine, and the only real time to get something done is when everyone is asleep or you found a quiet place just to focus. Life is filled with so many distractions, and it's difficult to block those out. But as a speaker, one needs to understand how to contend with those things in order to effectively reach out to your audience. Just as I talked about my short attention span, Denning talks about how listeners may be physically present, but mentally they're often somewhere else. And before any meaningful communication can occur, the speaker needs to clear the way and create an open space for the audience so that their minds can consider something different. So before we can communicate with our followers, we need to get their attention. Without grabbing someone's attention, our message is useless and has no effect. It's like talking to the wall behind me. Denning determined that 6 general principles govern efforts to get attention, and I'll go through these 6 general principles and give you a brief example and my take from a military perspective. So, number 1, attention is attracted to what is unexpected. In other words, unexpected or significant issues are what get priority in the attention, not routine occurrences throughout the day. For me in the military, normal things like inventories and physical training get the same priority. But if one of my soldiers came up to me and was like, "Sir, I think we're missing a Humvee," that would definitely get my attention. Number 2, attention is engaged by the emotions. Emotions can make things interesting and engage people. So if you want to elicit emotions, you have to be specific with your communication medium. When I was an AIT commander, when soldiers would get into trouble, they would usually walk out of my office with lesser rank and 14 days of extra duty. Something that seemed to really deter soldiers from getting into trouble was seeing other soldiers' punishment that followed. That reduction in rank or seeing their friend working late nights on extra duty got other soldiers' attention. Number 3, attention is engaged by what is personal to listeners themselves. People listen to things that are important to them. Soldiers love their time off and hate when someone takes that away from them. So if you want to get a soldier's attention, tell them that they're working weekends if they don't get something done, and I bet you they'll finish it quickly. Number 4, from a leadership perspective, it's important that whatever is used to get attention is relative to the subject in hand. Have a clear goal with no side distractions or tangents. I've been in meetings where the topic is vehicle maintenance, and our goal is to figure out how we're going to get these vehicles fixed and by what date. But then the person holding the meeting starts talking about something completely unrelated to the topic, or entertains a question from someone in the meeting about something totally irrelevant to our meeting topic, and we just lose focus. Number 5, the communication tool should be proportionate to the scale of the task in changing minds. If people are already distracted, then getting people's attention will be difficult. But if people are already engaged, then one can stimulate the desire for change quickly. Always assume that some people are not paying attention. So let's just say that I'm going to switch the service schedule, but all my soldiers were engaged and working on a vehicle. Then they probably wouldn't listen to me, and I would have to do something more to get their attention, like having them take a break, and then try to engage them in that way. But if my soldiers were already unhappy with the current service schedule, they would probably be more receptive to listening to my idea of changing it. Number 6, attention is engaged by what is negative. People focus more on negative events rather than positive ones, and those negative events are the ones that usually get more attention. When my soldiers would talk to me about supply matters, if it was generally positive, we would quickly gloss over the details, and that was that. But if my soldiers mentioned a loss of equipment, that negative event captured my attention because there was a problem. So now that we know the general principles that govern efforts to get attention, we'll kind of shift gears from those general principles to Denning's effective tools for getting someone's attention that are generally pretty effective. Number 1, tell a story about the audience's problems. Here you essentially find out what is of greatest concern to your audience and talk about that. Let's just say the issue is global warming, kind of like in Denning's example. Then you talk about that, but you have to be more knowledgeable about the subject than the audience. Then you show how global warming is more serious than everyone else thought or imagined. Then they will experience concern in the area that is personally relevant to them. This is often the best way to get someone's attention. Number 2, tell a story of how you handled adversity. Here you tell a brief but moving story about how you handled some adversity in your life. You want to relate that story in some way to the changes that you're discussing. In one of my discussion posts, I mentioned that during one of my weekly safety briefings, I read the obituary of one of my soldiers who passed away in an accidental drowning incident. I told my new group of soldiers the story behind the events that led up to his death, to the time when he didn't surface, to the aftermath of his loss. I mention all these things because I didn't want to receive a similar phone call for any of those soldiers that stood there in front of me, because each person in that formation had a family member that cared about them. I was trying to change their behavior for that weekend, or at least make them think twice about the decisions they made. Remember, this is only appropriate where the speaker is relatively unknown to the audience. Number 3, ask a question. Questions succinctly force attention on a set of issues selected by the communicator. In another discussion post, I talked about how I used to brief all the new trainees coming into Advanced Individual Training, or AIT. The newcomers briefing was a way for me to interact with this new group of soldiers and explain things about AIT. Most of the room was filled with 18, 19-year-old soldiers, and I knew I needed a way to get their attention. So during the briefing, I would ask pointed questions to ensure they were paying attention. This works best if the question and the answer is surprising to the audience. Number 4, use a striking metaphor. Metaphors can help convey a message and really paint a vivid picture of an issue, such as talking about the elephant in the room. Everyone knows there's not really an elephant in the room, but it's something that no one wants to address or discuss. You can use metaphors in your own discussions to really engage an audience and recapture attention. Denning makes a great point to note. The best metaphors are subtly effective, but beware of any unintended implications of the actual metaphor. Number 5, launch an unexpected exercise. One of the things I did when I would have professional development sessions is start out with an activity that was totally unexpected. In one certain session, we did a trust exercise. I paired people up and one person would be blindfolded while the other person would have to navigate them around the room, but without touching them. The only way they could guide them was with their words and their voices. In another instant, I picked 4 people from the audience and they had to trust their group of 6 to catch them as they fell backwards from an elevated stage. After that, I would get every person to quickly recount their experiences and how they felt during that time. It really helped keep everyone engaged and really captivate the audience's attention. Remember, the best exercises are related to the subject under discussion. Number 6, issue a challenge. At times when you issue a challenge, you might get people that are taken aback by your challenge, so beware. Let's pretend we're at a marriage retreat, and I challenge each of you to talk about 3 things that you love about your spouse and 3 things you wish you could change about your spouse. Some of you might walk out for whatever reason, but the challenge still remains. It definitely serves as a good tool to get someone's attention, but use caution with your challenges, and be careful to ensure that the challenge is not misleading. Number 7, share something of value. In the military, we often conduct award presentations or small promotion ceremonies before a meeting to kind of set the stage for our meeting and capture the audience's attention and hence positive feelings of trust. Be cautious with this tool, as a truly extraordinary announcement could divert attention from the main message. Denning mentioned if you announce an award to the organization for being, one of the best places to work in a setting where the staff doesn't necessarily agree that the award was justified, then the announcement will be distracting rather than attention-getting. Number 8, admit a vulnerability. This tool gets people's attention quickly because you reveal the limits of your knowledge. Lots of times in the military, the officer is seen by his subordinates and enlisted members as a person who thinks he or she knows it all. In one of my commands, I brought all my key personnel together and we had a quick introduction. But I used this time to let them know that I was not, and I stressed the not part. I was not the subject matter expert here. I was a manager of people, and my job was to get everyone on the same page so we could accomplish whatever mission came about. Another way to admit a vulnerability is to admit that you made a mistake. This can work if there is sincerity behind the message. In addition, if the admission isn't seen as reckless or foolish. The key takeaway here is that leveling with the audience can help generate trust. Number 9, give a musical performance. Not everyone can do this. I know I'm not musically inclined, but singing a song or performing a musical instrument can be so unusual in an organizational context that it gets attention. One of the things that we would do every now and again for change command ceremonies was having someone sing the national anthem rather than playing a recording. This really set the stage for the ceremony. It captivated everyone's attention, and ultimately it was something that the audience really remembered and connected with. The risk is that people may remember the song and not the message. So we talked about the 9 tools to get someone's attention. They're generally pretty effective. Now let's talk about some moderately effective ways to get attention. So these next things sometimes work but are hard to manage in the first group. Number 1, show the real thing. Sometimes the object may serve as a distraction from the actual message. Number 2, offer a surprise. Keep in mind, this approach is only momentarily effective, and make sure the surprise is related in some way to the subject at hand. Number 3, make an extraordinary offer. Sometimes this can serve as a distraction from the main message, such as the offering of a prize. Number 4, talk about an opportunity for the audience. Sometimes future opportunities are hard to believe and the opportunity may seem far-fetched or unlikely. Number 5, tell a springboard story. So a springboard story describes an example of something that has already happened with regards to change. And with this story, it's supposed to connect with the audience on an emotional level and generate a new story in their minds in a way that leads to action. But the issue with springboard stories is that sometimes they sound too positive, which may lessen the effectivity than actually getting the listener's attention with a question or story about the listener's own problems. Remember, negative stories get more attention than positive ones. Number 6, tell a joke. For this, you really have to know your audience, and it works if the joke is related to your message or objective of the presentation. Sometimes jokes can offend people in the audience, so be cautious with this. Number 7, show an image. Images need to communicate a clear message, and sometimes complex ideas or issues are hard to capture with just images alone. Remember, images can cause distractions for the audience and distract from the overall presentation. Number 8, create a frame. So this is about framing a subject and looking at things from a certain perspective. We talked about framing in depth with Fairhurst. So as you know, framing can have adverse reactions if the audience intuitively rejects the proposed frame. Just as there are generally effective and moderately effective ways to get someone's attention, there are also ineffective ways of getting attention. Sometimes they work, but more often they fail or backfire. Number 1 is hype. Hype is just repetition of positive statements, and it often generates mistrust and feelings of manipulation. Number 2, tell a story of who your company is. With this, the company's story is rarely seen as an attention getter. Number 3, just give the facts. This can work when the facts or data are surprising, but the facts by themselves are not particularly attention getting. Now that we looked at the general principles of getting attention and the tools to kind of get attention, we can shift our focus to show you some ways that we in the military are able to get people's attention in an effective manner. When you're watching these skits, I want to challenge you to think of the principles that we talked about or tools that we're utilizing. So without further ado, let's take a look.
Gather around, story time. So there I was.
No way.
Hey, what's going on, First Sergeant?
Hey, what's going on, sir? Got a minute?
Yeah.
Got some news. We just lost Lieutenant D.
What?
Yeah, we looked and looked, can't find him. He's lost.
Lieutenant D?
Yeah, Lieutenant, lost. As usual.
Hey, what's going on, First Sergeant?
Hey, sir, soldiers lost a weapon.
So first we lost Lieutenant D, now we lost a weapon?
Come here, soldier. Come here, hurry up. So you want to play games, huh? You don't know where the weapon's at? All right, you want to play? We can play games. Pony, attention! Front in rest position, move! Hey, cadets! Exercise. 1, 2, 3. What? 1, 2, 3. 2. 1, 2, 3. 3.
What's going on, First Sergeant?
Hey, what's going on, sir? Hey, we found that weapon.
Oh, good. Did we find Lieutenant D?
But we lost Lieutenant D again.
Again?
Again. Come on, soldiers, gather around. Let me give you your weekend safety brief.
Whoa.
All right. So what's 2 or 3 things you're not gonna do this weekend? Oh, you ain't saying I got something for you. First thing you're not gonna do this weekend. You're not gonna shower with power tools. You're not gonna beat your spouse. You're not gonna beat your kids. You're not gonna beat your pets. Just as you're level 1 combatant certified, I'm gonna give you the right to put your mouthpiece on and go downtown and hit up the locals.
So, those are just some of the ways that we get people's attention in the Army. I hope you enjoyed them. So let's do a brief recap and talk about getting someone's attention. When we talk about getting someone's attention, there are principles and then there are tools that we talked about in order to assist you in figuring out what the best way in which to capture someone's attention. To me, it's not just important to grab someone's attention, but it's equally, if not more important, to sustain someone's attention. There are certain ways to determine if you have someone's attention, and that's through observation and interaction. So as a speaker, if you notice people in the audience nodding off or looking around the room or shifting in their seats, then they're probably not paying too much attention to you or your message. A great way to keep someone's attention is to include them and engage them in your discussion through questions and answers or captivating stories. Remember that in every discussion or presentation, there will always be people who may not be fully listening to your message, and your job as a speaker is to engage as many people and communicate through different learned methods of speaking and engagement. Through these different strategies, one can effectively communicate with their audience in a way that captures their attention and fully immerses them in the discussion or topic of change. Well, hopefully you learned something today from this little video, and hopefully it'll help you out in your future endeavors. Thanks for watching. I'm Charlie, and until next time, go ahead and use what you learned to capture someone's attention.